WOVU LP, Cleveland.
This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. In-depth conversations with people who are making a difference in the lives of others here and around the world. Culture is at the heart of who you are. Know your culture, find yourself on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Hello and welcome to Open Door. I'm Vince Robinson, and my guest today is Dr. David Whitaker, also known as Nana Kwamina. That's Nana Kwamina II?
The second, yes.
The second, because there was someone who came before you that had that name, and then they honored you with that name.
Right. The first Nana Kwamina Kra Kwamina, it's often pronounced different ways. First name, second name first. But so either one is okay. Was the second or third chief in my village of Atonkwa in the central region in the city of Elmina. So when he passed, his stool was vacant for about a 300-year period because our village is older than the United States. So his stool sat vacant for this 300-year period of time. And subsequent to his taking his name, the subsequent chiefs resumed the name of the original creator of the village, whose name was Eduakwa, Kodwo Eduakwa. Kodwo meaning born on Monday. Eduakwa was his name. So after Nana Kra Kwamina passed, the subsequent chief became Kodwo Eduakwa II, the third, the fourth, the fifth. The current chief is Kodwo Eduakwa V. So when I was enstooled, they resurrected the vacant stool of Kra Kwamina, and I became Kra Kwamina II. So maybe if I do a good job, after my transition, someone will become Kra Kwamina III.
The third, okay. Well, just for transparency's purposes and so folks know who you are, because I know you, I've known you for several years, but there may be some out there who don't know who you are. You are an attorney and a psychologist. You got your degrees at the same time, 1980. You know, I can't forget this story because in 1980 I was getting my little degree in telecommunications, and this brother got 2 doctorates the same year. It's unfathomable. So
I often tell this story not as a bragging point, but I tell the story that I was enrolled in Case Western Reserve University in the program of educational psychology. But there was a professor of mine at John Carroll University several years before that suggested that he thought something about me would make me a good candidate for a law degree. And he frequently told me this, and I put his comments in my back pocket and never gave much thought to him until one day he actually gave me a flyer. There's a university in Idaho that you could attend and you could acquire a PhD in some area and a law degree simultaneously, and he thought it was a program that I would be interested in. But my children were small, and I was just working. The only thing I knew about Idaho was potatoes. So I said, well, there's no point for me to think about going to Idaho, so I dismissed this. So I tell this story to actually tell people the power of things that are suggested to you, because seeds were planted. So once I was in my PhD program at Case Western, one day a thought just came to my mind that I should go to law school. I don't know where that thought came from, but I suspect it's the seed that he had planted. And I applied to the law school, even though I was in Case Western Reserve's doctoral program already. But I was moved to apply, so I applied, took the LSAT. I was admitted, and I started going. And I ended up graduating from Case Western Reserve in, I think, July 1982. And I graduated from Cleveland Marshall College of Law in that November of that same year. So people are impressed by this accomplishment. And what I use it for is to tell them that it's often amazing what you can do if you don't know how hard it is supposed to be to do it. I didn't know any different. I didn't know it was supposed to be difficult. So I just tried to do the thing that was in front of me, not thinking about how challenging it might be or could be or supposed to be. But a lot of people told me that you couldn't go to two schools like this and have a full-time job working. It's not possible. But I didn't think that seemed impossible, so I just ignored that, and I took one step at a time and did whatever was required, and at the end of that, you finish. So that's what happened. So I have a degree from Case Western in school psychology or educational psychology, and a law degree from Cleveland Marshall College of Law in the same year. A few months apart, I graduated. So I'm pleased with that, and I like to tell the story, hoping that it might be encouraging to other people to not be dissuaded because someone else's impression is that you're unable to do something, or nobody in their right mind would attempt that, or people have tried that and they have failed, but those people are all different from you, and you're different from them. And so someone else's failure doesn't mean you have to fail. So that's why I like to tell that story, because you dictate in many ways the result of what you do. You apply yourself, you do what's required, and the end result takes care of itself. So that's that story.
Okay. So you've actually mentioned Atonkwa, you've mentioned Kra Kwamina, and there's a consistent theme in that, and that is Africa. You're going to be staging an event here in Cleveland on the 2nd of September that is going to involve brothers from across the way, brothers and sisters from across the way. So I think we need to let our audience know what you have planned.
Yeah, this coming a week from tomorrow, actually, September 2nd, from 6 to 9:30, we're having a lecture and kind of a reception for a delegation of chiefs from my area, Ghana, West Africa, the Central Region, the Cape Coast, Elmina area would be the two principal cities. And then there's a number of villages like mine, Atonkwa. So they will be coming because I've been going back and forth to Africa since 1992. I've been a chief in my village since 2004. So this is my 17th year as a chief. So we have developed our village to a point where it is, in many respects in the area, it has the reputation of the go-to village for a progressive place. We have construction that doesn't exist in most villages. We have state-of-the-art school facilities. We have a computer lab at our school that rivals, if not surpasses, the computer lab at Cape Coast University. We've just been awarded from the Republic of Ghana, been designated as a site for science research laboratory that will be housed in the community center that I built as part of my pledge to help uplift the village when I was installed in 2004. And the Republic of Ghana has also designated our village as the recipient of a new library program. So Nana Kodwo Eduakwa V is scheduled to be here, so he will talk about that and what we're doing now, how we're continuing to try to build and share what we've learned with other villages or other people that want to do something to engage with Africa, engage with Ghana, uplift the village, do something to bring hope and feeling of accomplishment to their own life. So whereas we're helping to do something in the Ghanaian Central Region, but everything that people think I'm doing, I often say what I'm doing pales in comparison to what I'm getting. Because if you go home and you engage with the right people, you'll get a whole new understanding of the concepts of family, community, commitment, good character, and you realize that the life you live in the U.S. oftentimes is just a small portion of what it means to be a human, what it means to be engaged with other people like you, what it means to share and receive and give, and how peacefully you can live from day to day without the stress of dealing with white supremacy here, police misconduct, discrimination on the job, and all these things we deal with every single day, 24/7, 365. Most people don't have any idea of being able to conceive of what it might feel like to live and function without that. Now, you know this from experience, but most people don't. So you can really live in a different way where you have less stress. And so Nana will be here. We'll talk about some of these things. Nana Obokese will be here to talk about the university that I mentioned, the replication of our school on Lamontier, how we see that working on 105 acres. Most people don't have any conception of what 105 acres actually looks like, feels like, and what you could do with it. So we feel that this will give people a pretty good feel for what Ghana, West Africa is like, and resolve some of the myths or dispel some of the myths that people have. African people don't like us. African people don't want to work with us. African people feel like they're better than us. Well, if you're on the continent and you're actually looking to be integrated into a community, into a culture, you'll find that people not only like you, they love you, they will work with you, and they want to be with you, and they want to work with you. So this is just a little overview of the program. So I'm excited. This will be the first time that they've been here together. So it's going to be very exciting. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Also, in the interest of transparency, I have to let the folks know that I've been privileged to make that trip to Ghana with you a few times. I actually happen to be on the village registry of Atonkwa, so Atonkwa is home for me. And it's funny because sometimes I have conversations with Ghanaians, and they say, "Where are you from?" And I say, "Well, I'm from Ghana." They say, "Well, where's your homeland?" I say, "Well, it's Ghana." They say, "Well, where have you lived?" I say, "Well, that is home for me now." And the other piece of it is just the whole idea of initiation. I've been curious about how that happens, but then when I reflected on time that I've spent in Ghana, it's like, oh, I have been initiated. I've gone through that process. My name is on a village registry. My name is Baba Yao Ansa. I eat red. Right. I've been initiated. So it's just gratifying to know. And when we come back, I want to talk to you about when the light came on for you, when you realized that there's something about Africa that is special to you and has been so special that you have essentially dedicated your life to this great continent and to at least one country in particular, and we're shining the light on that country with this project that you're doing, this fundraiser for the Atonkwa Research Labs. Mm-hmm. I've been to the school there, and it's just heartwarming to know that things are progressing at the rate at which they are. So we just want to invite everyone to come out to Wings Academy, 10615 Lamontier, on Thursday, September 2nd at 6 o'clock to 9:30. Nana is going to be there, and we're expecting guests, Nana Obokese and Nana Eduakwa, to also be there. And you can get your first-hand view of folks who are doing what a lot of other people talk about doing. They're not talking about it, they're doing it. We'll be back with more Open Door on 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station, right after these messages.
What's up, Cleveland? It's your girl, Jazzy J, and I just want to know, have you downloaded our app yet? Yes, our app for Androids and iPhones. All you got to do is go to your app store and download WOVU 95.9 FM, and you can listen to us anywhere.
Hi, this is Amanda Freed from PCs for People, and you are listening to WOVU 95.9 FM, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Welcome back to Open Door. Vince Robinson with Dr. David Whitaker, also known as Nana Kwamina II of Atonkwa, Ghana. And we are highlighting a program that will take place at Wings Academy on Thursday, September 2nd, 6 to 9:30 p.m., 10615 Lamontier Boulevard, or Lamontier Avenue, actually, off of Martin Luther King. Please come. Nana is going to tell you how you can make your donation to be in the place. And also, if you could just tell us the name of the program and what you're going to accomplish.
The name of the program is still being developed, but I refer to myself on social media as the 10th man, an African war correspondent. So the program is about ICE and 500 years of ICE, and my report from the Ghanaian Stronghold.
Mm-hmm. For those who don't know what ICE is.
ICE, the most common association with ICE is Immigration Customs Enforcement, which actually draws attention to, in the news mostly, the situation on the Mexican border that former President Trump was highlighted and lambasted for his treatment or the policies going on. So the same situation exists today. But so I took the ICE as a acronym that people might recognize and would assume that it has something to do with immigration, customs, enforcement. But it's really about what I consider to be the imperialism and ongoing cultural exploitation of the motherland. So there has been, for the past 600 years probably, an imperialist effort on the part of the West, Europe, America, to somehow take control of the culture or alter the culture on the continent, thereby leading to and making opportunities to exploit that same continent for its people, its resources, its minerals, and its future. So that's why I refer to it as a war zone. Most people have heard something about different civil conflicts in one country or another that they portray as tribal wars that are going on, but those are very small skirmishes compared to the ongoing international, orchestrated, coordinated exploitation of every African nation that is on the continent. We just don't see those things in the news because the people that control the news don't report to us what they might be doing. They report what they choose to, or they decide to consider newsworthy. So I want to talk about the ongoing war that's going on, which will be euphemistically described as the second scramble for Africa. The word scramble is a nice euphemistic term to make it sound as if there's a free-for-all, but you're actually describing a war that's going on against the people that are unsuspecting. The people don't know, for the most part, that, for example, the valuable mineral resources in every African nation is not the property of the African nation themselves. All the valuable resources are actually being controlled and exported to other multinational nations. For example, Ghana has one of the largest gold mines on the continent, but the gold mine is under the control of the British. So other places have, Ghana has bauxite that will last forever, but it's under the control of the Chinese. Ghana, the Democratic Republic of Congo has valuable resources that you could not produce computers without having, but they don't have control of these minerals and natural resources.
The coltan.
The coltan, they have that. Well, we're familiar with the King Leopold and the rubber after the first scramble for Africa, which was actually the Berlin Conference, declared war on the African continent and divided up the continent into the configuration that it is today. And they went to seize their property that they had given to themselves. And so that triggered the colonial wars that we talk about, as if, when we learn in the textbooks, it sounds like Europeans were coming to uplift and improve Africa, and the heathen or savage Africans were so backwards they didn't appreciate all of this volunteer aid, and so they started to fight. They don't describe it for the war that it actually was. So that went on for 150 years before Kwame Nkrumah gained independence in Ghana, which cascaded into the independence for all the other colonial nations. And so the occupation of Ghana and all the other subsequent African nations that gained independence brought to an end the physical occupation of the countries. What it did not do, it did not remove the infrastructure that had been established to exploit those nations of its resources and minerals. And that infrastructure produced the educational systems that they all use today. It produced the court systems, the parliament, and every system that's on these African nations now are really neo-colonial infrastructures. So it's difficult to say that a country's independent when its infrastructure is being perpetuated that was established by the colonial powers. And so we say that there's a three-pronged or three-legged stool that the colonizers established. One was based on occupation. The second leg was based on the establishment of infrastructures that would promote and perpetuate the extraction, exploitation of minerals, resources, and the people. So the independence that we claim was achieved in 1957 by Nkrumah, or all the sub-Saharan nations subsequent to that, only removed the physical occupation. The machinery to guarantee and ensure the extraction of minerals, resources, and exploitation of the people remain intact to this day. So when you go visit any African nation, you're looking at a nation that's a neo-colonial entity. It's not sovereign. It's not totally free. Its parliament is just like the parliament in the UK. And all of the countries pretty much have a parliamentary structure. Its political parties are mimicking the West. Its offices and officers are mimicking the West and the European nations. And then we have the nerve to say that they are corrupt, as if they haven't learned this corruption from the people that instituted these structures, and now the holders of these offices are simply trying to do what they think the colonials did or value, and so the whole thing is backwards. So we say we have to do something different, and our thrust and the thrust of the program is to display what we believe is one of the central aspects of this foundation is the educational system machinery that produces people. The education system develops a young person, and over 15 years of involvement in that system, if the system works well, it produces at the end result the kind of individual that John Henry Clark would say, or Amos Wilson would say, a society through education produces the kind of people it needs to perpetuate the society. So if you have a neo-colonial education system, you can't be surprised that your leaders are neo-colonial thinkers. So we have in our village, for example, in the school system, which was established by during the colonial days, students that go to our village school right now today may not know Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of their own country that they live in. They may not even know that because it's not taught in the schools. So sometimes we have to realize and come to understand that part of the reason that we are not closer to African people is that they have been educated based upon the values that and learning the things that will serve the interests of Europeans. We, on the other hand, have learned and been inculcated with the ideas that will serve the interests of slaveholders. So it's no wonder that we don't know them and they don't know us, because they've been taught that we are not like them. We've been taught that they are not like us. So we've both been lied to. As Malcolm would say, we've been tricked, bamboozled, run amok. And now it's up to us to build these bridges, learn our true history, and come to understand the true dynamics that we have been tricked by the same kind of forces for their purposes and not our purposes. So that's what we are going to show. That's what we're working towards. And that's what we feel is the silver bullet if it was the Lone Ranger. That's the silver bullet that will help us deal with this neo-slave mentality, the neo-colonial mentality that still robs us of our greatness, our unity, and our ability to become sovereign people and solve our own problems.
Mm-hmm. You use that term sovereignty. I'm sure that there are a lot of people who really don't fully comprehend the impact and the importance of that. But, when we talk about creating change, you're looking at an education system that has been used as a tool of indoctrination to create good workers for a country that no longer needs as many workers as they needed before, because those workers are working in plants and operations outside of the country, mm-hmm. and the people who run those companies are benefiting largely from that. But I just want to shine the light on the fact that you have created an institution here in Cleveland that is serving the needs of African-centered students, and you're creating a university that is going to consider the needs of K through all the way into college, which is extremely important. And as we see it, it's going to be a model moving forward for other countries to emulate. So once again, we're going to have a program here in Cleveland at Wings Academy. It's going to take place on Thursday, September 2nd. The donations are $10 in advance, $15 the day of the event, and we will definitely give you information on how you can make a contribution to this fundraiser for the Atonkwa Research Laboratories, and also a donation to Larchmere Arts. I'm not looking for a whole lot. I want to donate what I can to the Atonkwa Research Laboratories, but you have that coming up on September 2nd, and again, we'll give you more information on this as time permits. You are listening to and also watching Open Door. We're recording it live right here at Larchmere Arts at 12726 Larchmere Boulevard. Happy to be doing this so you can hear the cars going by, but just adds to the ambiance. Now you are in the room with us. We'll be back with more Open Door right here on 95.9 FM WOVU right after this.
Attention Shaker Heights residents. The United States Postal Service is bringing a mobile unit every Monday and Thursday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at 2855 East 130th Street in Cleveland. This mobile unit will offer services including stamps, package mailing, and money orders in place of the Shaker Finance Station, which is closed through October while enhancing security. P.O. Box customers should continue to pick up their mail at the Shaker Main Post Office at 3675 Warrensville Center Road, Mondays through Fridays from 8:30 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. and Saturdays from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. The lobby will remain open for 24 hours a day. Once again, the United States Postal Service will use a mobile unit for Shaker Heights residents every Monday and Thursday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at 2855 East 130th Street in Cleveland through October. This is brought to you by the United States Postal Service and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
We're back on Open Door with Vince Robinson and my guest, Dr. David Whitaker, also Nana Kwamina II, and we've been talking about this program, the fundraiser for Atonkwa Research Laboratories, and also Larchmere Arts. Again, they want to make a donation. I'm happy to accept it, but again, I think it's more important that the research labs get this funding because they need it, and I'm gonna be all right. I'm gonna be all right. We were talking about education, but before we took the last break, I indicated to you that I wanted to ask you about that moment in your life when the flame came on, when the light bulb started to emit light, and you had this idea that it was important for you somehow to become connected with Africa.
It's a good question, and I think it will be instructive and informative for people that are listening or viewing. But it's a long story in a way.
That's why I waited until we came back from the break, because I knew it would take a minute.
It's a long story in a way. But I would say to people, if you begin to look at your life as a path that you're on, as opposed to you searching for a destination that you can see in the distance. Just follow the path that you're on. There's one of my favorite African artifacts and images is that of an elder that's walking through the bush with a cane in one hand and a lantern in the other. And the message here is that you have the cane, which is just long enough to clear the space in front of your next step. And you have the lantern, which has just enough light for you to see clearly the next step. And the symbolism there is that your life can be so frightening to you if you could see down that path that you wouldn't take any steps. It's only because as you take the steps, it begins to prepare you, unbeknownst to you, for the challenges that are ahead. So I realize in retrospect that I've been on a path that I didn't know I was on. I didn't know there was a path at all, and I didn't know I was on this path. But as I look back in retrospect now, I can see the point of all the calamities that I have encountered. And I can see the point of all the achievements that have kept me moving because you gain confidence. And the confidence you gain from the challenges that you overcome is the very confidence that you need in order to attempt the next challenge. So I would say to people, just start thinking of your life, or try to think of your life as a path that you're on. That you don't really have to know where it's leading as much as whether you can follow it, because it will lead where it leads. And you don't have to try to determine where it's going as much as you have to get the resolve to stay on it. So one of my favorite movies is The Matrix, where Morpheus tells Neo, he said, Neo, you're going to have to learn, as I have, that there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. So if you think of it as a path, just stay on the path. Stay the course. Stay there, because it's your path. It's your life. You wouldn't be on that path if it wasn't meant for you. So stop looking around trying to figure out who you want to mimic. You want to be like this person. You want to be like that person. Because you have a path of your own. You came here to do something. So if you don't follow your path, which Michael, I forget his name now, but said, follow your bliss. Follow your bliss. The thing you like to do is got something to do with what you are probably supposed to do. So I started going to Ghana in 1992, and I visited Ghana 13 times before it really dawned on me there's something that's going on here that I don't know about. I've been a tourist, I've been a visitor, but there's something more going on than just me riding around looking at things that I don't understand. But my turning point was, so Ghana's on one track. I'm here in Cleveland on another track. But the catalyst for the person that people see right now, which is I hope they can understand what I'm saying and try to incorporate it into their own life. The creation of the person that they're seeing now was born out of the transition of my mother. So her death produced the person that you see right now. And she transitioned after an extended bout with breast cancer. And she was on life support. At some point, after several weeks, I told the doctors that that's it. We're gonna turn off the life support. She's gone. We can see that, and so that's what we did. I was practicing in Beechwood on Mercantile Road in a nice office. She was at Cleveland Clinic. I left Cleveland Clinic after they discontinued the life support. And I knew she was gone. I drove to my office. I got to the office and I was exhausted. I left the Cleveland Clinic on this drive, which is only a few minutes by comparison, but it seemed like an eternity. And the more I drove, the more I second-guessed whether it was appropriate to tell them to turn off the life support. Or maybe I was being selfish. Maybe I was tired of going to the hospital every day. Maybe I just thought that enough is enough. And I was thinking about what was beneficial to me and not what was beneficial to her. So when I arrived at my office, I sat down in my office. I had a nice plush leather chair, and I was just tired. So I sat there, and as I sat there staring into space, a voice said, "What have you done of significance?" And I said, well, I was the first person in my family to graduate college. I have 2 fine daughters. I have a law degree. I'm practicing in psychology. I've got certificates on my wall. I've done all these things. So I've beat the system. I'm a young African American person that has done well. So that's significant. So that wasn't impressive to the voice. So the voice said the second thing was, yes, but what have you done of significance? So I was so horrified, actually, that my responses were not satisfactory, that I couldn't stay in that office anymore. I couldn't hear another question. So I got up, I basically ran out of the office, got in my car, and started to drive around. So I drove around thinking of what will be significant. Well, if I've given everything that I have done that is significant, but it's obviously not sufficient. So for the next 2 weeks, I was tormented by this question. But I finally came to the conclusion that what I had done apparently was not significant. And I felt that I was going to get this question again. Sometime, somewhere, I was going to have to respond to this question again. So I concluded that there's something I've never done, but if I tried to do it and I succeeded somehow, it would qualify as significant. And my conclusion was that I've never tried to devote my life and energy to the upliftment of African people and black people. So if I worked on that, and I was successful at that, when the time came that I got that question again, I felt confident I would have something to report that was significant. And that was in 1992, because my mother passed almost the time that, no, this was 1990, no, that was 1989. So 1992 is when this, 1989 is when this came up, after her transition. So I've dedicated my entire life focus now is trying to achieve that. So these two tracks merged. When I went to Africa, I could see the potential for me to expand on this initiative in a whole continent. I had a school I could work with here, I could work with people, but I could also see the possibility of expanding this in ways that would really allow it to materialize, or at least I thought. So one thing led to the next. So ever since 1989, that's what my life is about. And so when people call me and say, well, could you help me with such and such? I said, sure I could. They say, I'm so grateful, this, that, and the other. I said, you don't have to be grateful. This is my job. You don't have to really thank me. I appreciate you thanking me, but this is my job. I only get up every day to work on this so that when I get that question again, I will have something to say that hopefully will be acceptable. So if people come to the program on Tuesday, I have books that tell this whole story.
Thursday.
Yeah. I have a book that I've written. People ask me, how do you become a chief? How do you become a chief? So I said, I'm going to write a book one day to explain it so people don't keep asking me this question. So I wrote the book. It's entitled Why I Became an African Chief. So you can get a copy. You can read it. And if it helps to instruct your journey, I'll be gratified. If it helps in a small way or a big way, I'll be gratified. So ever since my mother's transition, I have become the person that people see right now.
We have just about a minute and a half before we go to our next break. You talked about your mother. Obviously, your mother is in the ancestral realm. And being around you as much as I am, I know that the ancestors play a pivotal role in you doing what you do. Can you talk about the significance of honoring those who came before us?
Well, we are all a current version of those that have come before us. Those that have come before us and have done exemplary work worthy of being modeled, work worthy of being continued, we refer to as ancestors. Those people that we call their names when we think of significant people in our lives or just in general, because they give us the model to follow. And so we believe in the Akan tradition. We believe that when your ancestors transition, their job is to assist you in doing what you're doing. Your job is to try to keep their names alive. Akan people believe that no one literally dies until their name is not mentioned anymore. So when I'm installed as Kra Kwamina II, it's actually a resurrection of Kra Kwamina I, because his name is now mentioned all the time. And then my job is to build upon his legacy. So Kra Kwamina I was a person that acquired land of his own in the village. And he could have done anything with the land, but he donated the land to the village, expanding the size of the village by a multiple of 2.
Yeah, if I could jump in, there is a community center in that village now, and it's there because you became a chief and you're carrying on the legacy of Nana Kra Kwamina I. You're listening to Open Door right here on 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burton Bell Car community radio station. I'm Vince Robinson. My guest is Dr. David Whitaker, also Nana Kra Kwamina II. We'll be back with more of this fascinating story when we come back.
Are you or someone you know in need of help? Here's a resource you can turn to.
The Thea Bowman Center has been serving the community for over 50 years and provides services to help support Mount Pleasant and surrounding communities of all ages. Some of these programs include adult education like GED, computer classes, food pantry, senior outreach, youth after school, and summer programs, and much more. Are you a Cleveland resident in need of a GED preparation, a food pantry, youth or senior programs? Then call the Thea Bowman Center at 216-491-0669 or visit theabowmancenter.org. Call the Thea Bowman Center at 216-491-0669 or visit theabowmancenter.org to register today.
This message is brought to you by the Thea Bowman Center and WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
We're back on Open Door with Vince Robinson and my guest, Dr. David Whitaker, also known as Nana Kwamina II. He is also known as the 10th Man, and he's going to be doing a presentation at Wings Academy Thursday, September 2nd, 6 to 9:30 p.m. You can cash app Nana Kra. It's Nana Kra, right? $, Nana Kra. And come to my Facebook page, the Larchmere Arts Facebook page. We'll give you all the details on the donation that is suggested for this event, this fine event. We just talked about the importance of the ancestors in our lives, and I have to testify. I've told this story. I've told this story on the air before, but I'm just remembering that day that we spent near Elmina's dungeon, right outside of it, and you poured a libation. We walked down to the beach, sunrise ceremony. I cast my fruit into the water. I had my conversation with the ancestors, and later that evening, I got an inbox from Dr. Renoko Rashidi. And that morning, I had told the ancestors that I wanted to be a conduit to bring culture to Africans in the diaspora, to African-American brothers and sisters, and that's how it happened. So I am firmly convinced that your mother is the wind beneath your wings.
Oh, well, no doubt, no question. No question. And other people have people too. People often say, well, thinking about ancestors is like you're talking to dead people. I said, well, that's not that unusual, because almost everyone at some point in time have said a prayer to their grandmother, their grandfather, their departed uncle or niece or somebody that was instrumental in their life, and you're talking to these people as if they're not gone, and you're asking them for advice and asking them to help you, and so it's not unusual. So the Akan believe that their definition of community or family is a definition that includes all the people walking around on the earth today that are your family members. Those are people all in your family. That's one component of your family. Another component of your family is all the people that used to walk on the earth that have now gone on. They're in your family presently, as well as all the people that we know that are going to be born into your family in the future. They are in your family right now. So your family consists of you, all the people that are going to be born, and all the people that lived and have gone on. That's your family. So if that's your family, it makes sense to conduct yourself in a way that you appreciate those that have gone on, because they have, to a large extent, created the pathway for you to be you. Their achievements give you part of your reputation. Their accomplishments give you the opportunity to start on square two instead of square one. Their model gives you something to pattern yourself after. So you have to be appreciative and mindful of what they did. Likewise, it's your responsibility to do things and conduct yourself in a way that you allow those to come after you to start on square three instead of two. Because if you're on two and you can't make it possible for a newborn to start on square three, then you haven't done your job. And if all too often for African American people, every generation has to start off on square one. So that means all these people living didn't do anything to create the opportunity to at least start on square two or square three. Ideally, you've got all these ancestors that you have benefited from, many of who survived the horrors of the Elmina dungeon. They survived the horrors of the Middle Passage. They survived the horrors of plantation life, Jim Crow, slavery, the KKK. They've survived all of that. In order for you to be alive, and your testament is that you're still on square one. How can you justify that? So you haven't done your job. So you have to look out for your family. You have to extend the achievements of those that have gone on. So in my chieftaincy, Nana Kra Kwamina expanded the village 50%, 100%. He doubled the size of the village. So I've got to do something to build on that. So in responding to what the villagers said they would like, I committed to building a community center. So that's my contribution. That community center was a seed that prompted the development of another school and the participation of other people. So you never know what you do, how it might be a magnet to other people who are looking to find places to do their work. So that's all that's happened in our village. It's not like I've done all these things. You provide an opportunity for other people to see how they can participate, and that's what has occurred. Mm-hmm. So that's the value of your ancestors. And you know, at some point, your hope is, as a living person, your real desire in life is that at some point you too will be an ancestor. There's a difference between an ancestor and a person that died. An ancestor is a model, is an example of what it means to be an exemplary human. Then you want people to follow you. That's why they name their children after that name, because they know that there's some power in the name itself. And there's a model that you can point to and say, well, you know, Yao, you were like so-and-so. That's why we gave you that name. So this person serves as a model for you. Religions do that. Christians, their model is Jesus. Buddhists, it may be the Buddha. So there's an image, there's an iconic figure that is being used to generate and hopefully perpetuate the same standards of behavior that will benefit the people. So this is not a mystery. So our ancestors do that for us. And I've seen enough things now, just like you cited that example, I've seen enough things now that no one can tell me that there's no other outside involvement in my life. People that say, oh, you're doing so much in Ghana, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing that. I said, well, it's not actually me doing it. I'm not that good. There's some things I can do, there's some skills I have, but I'm not really this good. So something is helping me. Something is helping that I don't really know how it works, but I can see I couldn't do this like this without help. So I know this is ancestral help. And so that's the power of our ancestors, whether they're our departed parents that left us with an image that is so powerful, so profound, that if we just follow it, we'll be fine. And like in Christianity, you're given the 10 Commandments. And it's often you look at them and say, if anybody actually followed the 10 Commandments, the world would be like perfect. Even if you didn't get all 10, say you only got 7, they're so powerful that the world would be different. So we know people aren't really following these things, because if they were, it wouldn't be like this. So we say just follow the path and use the models you have, and appreciate your ancestors. They're in your family, and it's your job to prepare for the next generation. They're not here yet, but you know they're coming, because life is perpetual. New people keep coming. People get older. They eventually leave, but new people keep coming. So you have to, as long as you're living, you have to be preparing the space for the new people, so that they don't have to start on square one. So that's the relationship between ancestors and the obligation to look out for the interests of those yet unborn. Then you have a perfect circle. The cycle is complete. And you become an ancestor eventually. And Akan people believe in reincarnation too. So you'll become an ancestor, and lo and behold, you could look up and you'll be an infant again. And people will look at you and say, now that's an old soul right there. He's just like Grandpa so-and-so. Grandpa's in that little baby right there.
Right.
So that's the belief.
Okay. Speaking of one, for whatever reason, we have this idea that it's us and them, but the reality is that we're all one because we all came from the same source, the same ancestors. And what you're engaged in right now is a partnership with those who are across the water. But we always get this idea that we're opposite people. We're opposing forces. We operate in opposition to each other. So in a few moments we have left, I just want to talk about the fact that you're dispelling all of that. And what you have is a perfect partnership between Africans in America, specifically in Ghana and other parts of the continent, and African Americans or Africans here in the diaspora. See, what we don't... I've often said it, and Lynn uses it as a slogan for 360, is that from John Henry Clark, he made the statement that I heard. It's not my statement. He said, what do people do for themselves depends upon what they think about themselves. And I added, what they think about themselves depends upon what they've been taught. So we've been taught that we are unconnected from people on the continent of Africa. We've been taught that they sold us into slavery. What they've been taught is that your ancestors went away looking for work and they found lucrative employment and they abandoned you. So that's the story they've been told, that we abandoned them, and we've been told that they sold us. And we believe these things, so we feel like we're not the same. My good friend Gina Page, who's the co-founder of AfricanAncestry.com, we had a conversation that can be very helpful because as you visit Ghana and you become a resident of Atonkwa, you have personal experience where you can look around and you can see people not necessarily living in Atonkwa, but in the general area, you can see people that look like they could be your relative. They just look like they could be your family members. So what we have not been able to glean from our appreciation of history is that the people that we call our ancestors, that we refer to as our ancestors, that left Africa and were put on ships and were taken across the ocean and sold, that same person was the relative, the father, the uncle, the mother, the daughter of an African person living on that continent right now. So we have this common ancestor. It's our ancestor, but it's also the ancestors of our cousins. So if we follow this tree back, we can trace it to the root where we actually have this same person in common. Because if we didn't have these people in common, there'd be no way that your DNA could trace you to some people if they aren't your relatives. So what we refer to as our ancestors is the common ancestor that we had, and we have with people on the continent who were in the family of that person too. But 20 generations later, we just don't know that. We don't know who they are, who they were. But we know they must exist. Otherwise, we couldn't be connected to them by DNA. Right. So this has been a fascinating conversation, and I just want folks in the audience to know that you can come to Wings Academy and get more insight, get more wisdom, get more knowledge. You know, I just sit here and I've seen this hour fly by. I guarantee you'll get more than an hour if you come on Thursday. Wings Academy, 10615 Lamontier Avenue in Cleveland, Ohio. You can come here, Dr. David Whitaker, Dr. David Whitaker, Nana Kwamina II, and more special guests to be announced. Come there, make your donation, and further the cause of the Atonkwa Research Lab. It's been great to have you on the show. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, and thank your audience for listening. And it's not just that people will be able to support something that we're doing. They will also be able to discern whether there's an opportunity for them to get on this path, which is a furtherance of their own path that they're already on.
Take up the lantern, take up the cane, make a difference. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, make today your best day. Peace.